Ready to put your patriotism in the Bible cap on? All right, there it is. There's our in the dugout. in the
Let's
dugout.
do it.
All right, so the second reading from my Mass Sunday was Philippians 2, verses 1 through 5. Basically, it's what I call the A Beautiful Mind passage. If you remember that movie with Russell Crowe. I'll get to that. I'll get back to that in a second. I'll just put out there as a tease. Christ says, and he's talking, make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit, of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Okay. So while we don't get over religious here, I think the religious implications are clear there. Follow Christ's way, be in simpatico with me, and you'll find the path for heaven. I like to make the analogies to patriotism and the Constitution. Again, I've said it many times. I think Christ's way or God's way is America's way. That's the analogy, right? I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm saying that's the analogy. That if you follow the freedom of principles of equality under the law, and you treat others with that same respect, respect their independence, right? Respect their freedoms, their liberties, their rights, that even if you have a different agenda, you can't just be about your agenda. You have to think about others when you're a public official. And if you just keep respecting those rights of freedom, individualism, independence, and equality, I think we'll have a much better country. What do you think?
Well, the founders certainly believed that when they founded our country, that there needed to be some kind of a moral foundation on which a free people live, right? So this, to me,
Right.
when I hear this, is talking about shared values. If we're actually going to have a good society, which I do think what Christ is talking about here is about how societies should be governed, right? So if we're going to have a good society, we have to have a moral shared foundation on which to build. Right now, we don't have that shared foundation anymore, right? The left has taken that away in so many different ways. They are operating out of the
That's
small
the point. That's
right.
the point, right? The left is saying, well, this is our agenda. It might not be the agenda that most of our community accepts. So this is our agenda, and we're going to force it upon you.
Yeah, it's this small minority with these strange out of touch beliefs that are coming out of left field, to put the baseball pun on it, right? That it's this small minority that is forcing this agenda. And we've learned time and time again that you can't have a society with two competing moral value systems. Everybody has to agree on some fundamental level. It doesn't have to be a lot, but these two things, the American way, are completely opposite and in conflict with what the progressive left believes, and only one will survive.
Let's be specific. Let's take some example. We were talking about the climate change. All right, that is forcing, all right, their agenda, their fear of climate catastrophe, forcing limited choices on people, forcing higher costs on people, forcing us to use products that can't be disposed environmentally well, or even in their production cause environmental harms. But because it fits their agenda, they want to force it on all of us. That's not in the community's best interest. That's in their agenda's best interest. Think of the transgender thing. I mean, we just like we showed with the reports earlier, we're harming our kids emotionally and physically, harming them, upsetting their parents, putting over sexually explicit materials in front of their kids against the will of their parents because it advances their narrow agenda. But are they showing humility and putting value of others above themselves? No, they're putting their personal value. So there's a close parallel here, I think.
Yeah, extremely close. The left doesn't know what putting other people before themselves means at all, right? Or being humble enough to understand that freedom is important. That I might not know what's best for another person, right? I don't know your circumstances. I don't know the life you're living, and it's a humble thing to say, "Hey, I want to help you. I want to find the best ways to do that. We have all these different things out there that could help you, but
I trust you to make the best decision for yourself. It's not my decision."
Exactly. it's a humble thing to be able to say that. Hey,
Right.
I'm going to live my life the best I
Humility.
can. Right, humility. The left has none of that. They have arrogance. They have the sanctimonious sense of self superiority that
Well,
really,
yeah, and as it said in the passage, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, and that's what they're doing. Now, I want to bring in one more factor in this. I've talked about this a long time ago on my show. There's a look. I've explained. I am not the most religious guy in the world. I'm also not the most spiritual guy in the world, which is close, but not the same thing. But I listen to people. I listen to religious people. I listen to philosophers. I listen to spiritualists because oftentimes people have something to contribute. So there's a great philosopher, spiritual philosopher named Eckhart Tolle. He pretty much came into prominence when I was a young adult. He's still out there talking, and he talked about wisdom. What is wisdom as opposed to intellect? All right, so let's apply that intellect. These people with high degrees, they're studied, but they have this intellect and they want to use their self-ambition and conceit, as we talked about earlier, to try to impose their intellectual views on everyone else. That's one way to go, right? That's what's happening, right? These it's the well-educated idiots out there who are dividing us, right?
I'm gonna use my fancy advanced degree right now. Socrates said that the beginning of wisdom is knowing that you knew nothing, right? So that you have these people that are super educated in this one narrow area, which means they think they know everything, but they really don't, because they're so educated in this one thing.
Really don't, because that's the contrast to intellectualism is wisdom, because wisdom is knowing how to apply your intellect to a solution that works best for everybody, not just for you, as in A Beautiful Mind, but for everybody. Do you remember that scene in A Beautiful Mind?
I've actually never seen it, instead, but
It's a little
that'll be my homework assignment.
It's a little chauvinistic, but basically Russell Crowe's the guy. He's in a bar with his friends, and two of his friends, and three women walk in, and one or two of them are really good looking. The third one really isn't. And he says, all right, we all have a chance here, but we can't all get the better. So he says, I'll take the lesser looking one. I'll be happy, and everyone else will be happy. It might not be in my best interest, but at least it's best for the greater good. So that was a scene that,
what a guy. That's the wingman you want, right? What a guy to have on your team right there. I like it.
But see, that's wisdom, right? See, that's wisdom, how to be able to recognize a situation, understand your surroundings, understand the emotions of those around you, understand the feelings and principles and religious beliefs, if you would, of those around you, and then trying to figure out a solution that works best for the community, however you decide that community, whether it's a local town or a state or a country, or you're just your own family, or whatever that is. That's what a true leader is, right? A leader is someone who's wise, who can apply his courage or his leadership skills, his intellect to do what's best for the family, whether that be the husband or the wife or an eldest son. It doesn't matter. That's what wisdom is. These leftists have no wisdom. It's pure intellectual vanity.
No, and they don't have any sense of leadership either, right? They do get people to follow and march step with them, but that's not leadership. Leadership is presenting a vision, inspiring other people, to bringing them into your vision, and inspiring them to go out and find new creative ways to execute that vision.
Following the leader is not being a leader. Blowing with the wind is not being a leader. Standing up to the prevailing wind, standing up to what might be the prevailing wisdom or the politically correct thing to do. And then, as you said, Larry, convincing people, no, to your point of view, and having the courage to stand up and the wisdom to be able to convince people, that's leadership.
Right. So much of what the left does comes down to power, right? So that if you don't follow along, force, right? Power, force, they will cancel you, they will come after you, they will harass you if you do not march in step with them. Not leadership at all. there's a better answer, and that answer is freedom.
All right. So let's conclude that segment in our show today. We'll end a little earlier today. So the theme here is just like that passage from Philippians, imitating Christ's humility and wisdom. We should do the same thing. We should imitate America's founding principles of freedom, equality, and independence, because that's what's best for our community as a nation. I think it's really that simple. If we respect freedom and liberty, we're going to be a much better country.